welcome you to this talk in celebration of the Afrofuturist Evolution, this fantastic book here. And in partnership with that, with the release of this book, we are working with Carnegie Hall's Nuestros Sonidos, a celebration of music and culture from Latin America and within the US and beyond. And today I have the pleasure of being in conversation with two people who I respect, whose work I think is just super fantastic. And that is Hugo Canuto and John Jennings. So just to give you a bit of backdrop, Hugo is he's a screenwriter, illustrator, and a comic book creator, a graphic novelist. And his book, Tales of the Orishas, is this exciting saga about the Orishas, who are part of the Yoruba pantheon, a part of Afro-Brazilian culture. He's put together this really exciting collection, and it was created in Brazil, where Hugo is based, and about, I think it was 2023, released in the US and translated into English. So cheers.
Yay.
Yay.
Yes.
And also, I want to introduce to you John Jennings, who is a curator for the Megascope Abrams imprint, which Tales of the Orishas is released on. And among that, he's one of the leading scholars in Afrofuturism, in the ethnogothic, in Black horror. He is the creator of the Silver Surfer Ghostlight comic, which he happens to be wearing on his shirt, and also did the cover for this book, The Afrofuturist Evolution, and my book, Afrofuturism, the one that came out in 2013. So there are so many other things that I can say about John. He is adapted Octavia Butler's Kindred, Parable of the Sower, Parable of the Talents, which is released this spring season. And to that, I have to say, cheers, John.
Thank you. Woo. Very excited about the conversation.
Thanks. And it's also exciting to know that although Hugo and John have been in conversation many a time, this is their first time seeing one another
Yeah.
Yeah,
in
we
video.
spent many moments we had by email
Mhm.
because is Tales of the Orishas in English by Abrams and Megascope. But this is the first opportunity to talk to him, and I'm very glad to be here. Thank you, Ytasha, for the invitation. Thank you, John. Thank you, Carnegie Hall. It's a pleasure and an honor to show my work, to talk about my culture in such special moment.
No, thank you for your work. It's very inspiring and brave, and I just really wonderfully articulated. I love Tales of the Orishas. I think it's a beautiful book. So
Yes, I too think it's beautiful. And I feel like I should have coordinated this Love Fest many months ago so that we could all be together.
this is
Um,
good.
Let's do again. We are going to have another opportunities for
Yes,
sure.
yeah, we're gonna claim that. Yeah, exactly.
So, Tales of the Orishas is this exciting novel that was first written in Portuguese and released in Brazil. And I saw it initially just scrolling through Instagram, and I was like, oh my gosh, there's a graphic novel on the Orishas. Oh, it's told from the Afro-Brazilian standpoint. I said, this is great. I shared that with John. I would like to say I played a small role in all of this coming about. I don't know if I
Sure.
did, but that's the story I'm sticking to. Uh, and I just want to ask you, Hugo, when did you start working on this project and why did you want to create it?
It's a very special artwork in my life. I'm from a city named Salvador in Brazil. Salvador has the biggest Afro-Brazilian heritage and the biggest Black population in the world outside Nigeria, from the cities. So all of my life, we live in this culture. The music from Brazil, all the base of the Brazilian music is African music, from Yoruba, from Angola, from Congo roots. And Salvador is a special place because it's the city not only of a strong Black heritage, but from Candomblé, that reunited different philosophies and spiritualities that worships Orishas. And I'm one follower of Candomblé. Then I really think, and I always believed, that my artwork has a compromise with my city and my culture. I love to do comics, and I love all the US heritage of comics, superheroes, independent comics. It influenced a lot we Brazilians, our authors, my generation of authors. We read it a lot. DC, Marvel, Jack Kirby, John Buscema. Silver Surfer is one of my favorite characters. I love the plots when John Buscema did it, and I also love John's work now. I read it a few months ago. Black Panther, all those heroes were part of my imagination and my life since I was a kid. It inspired me to draw. But when I did comics for the first time 8 years ago, and my original graduation is in architecture. So I shared my time with comics and architecture. But when I did it, when I chose the way of comics in Brazil, I was very confident that I should do it, talk about my place. Because the first thing, show the beauty, the sophistication, the greatness of Orishas stories, Orishas mythology, of Candomblé culture. Show to people that those myths and legends, those heroes and gods and heroines and princess and goddess, they had such important stories and such relevant knowledge than all the other cultures that we met in school, from the Greeks, from the Norse, from the Japanese. Despite the fact that Salvador has a huge Black heritage, we still suffer with intolerance, racism, preconceptions, and this philosophy of Candomblé, the spirituality of Candomblé, struggles against all these issues. So it was also a way, a path, to promote this culture and show to my community, to the city, to Brazil, the importance and the beauty of of those tales and narratives.
That's so wonderful. And John, could you pull up some of the images?
Oh,
And
definitely. I have the graphic novel that we can check out. Actually, I'll share my screen.
yeah, and just to give people a bit of backdrop, then in Nigeria, the Yoruba culture and others celebrated a spiritual practice called Ifa. And
Yes.
Ifa had the pantheon of Orishas. You could think of them as spirits connected to aspects of the earth. and have their own powers or domain, also their own dances and songs. And during the transatlantic slave trade, many Africans who were brought from that region uh, wound up in Brazil, amongst other places.
Hmm.
And the spiritual practice Ifa became known as candomblé. And everything about the tales of the Orishas, whether you're talking about Shango or Yemaya, I mean, they have the character traits that lend itself to superhero tales.
Hmm.
Uh, and so, uh, John, when you ran across this book, which was, when did it come out in Brazil, Hugo?
2019.
Hmm.
Okay. So
It's
when you
two
ran,
years
okay,
of development.
wonderful. Oh, 2 years of development. Wow.
Hmm.
And when you ran across it, John, what was your first thought?
Well, first thing is that just a little bit of background. Me and my friend, our friend Stacy Robinson, we have um, I guess like a shared nom du art or studio called Black Kirby, you know? And so Black Kirby was created to kind of like look at the socio-political economies of comics through like an Afrofuturist or, Black lens, but using like Jack Kirby's aesthetic as kind of a touchstone, because as you all know, I mean, Jack Kirby's work, because of his work on like the Marvel characters, on New Gods, and which I can see like a lot of influence here, in in this as well. Um, his drawing style became the prototype for what we look at as being like superhero artwork, and so first of all, so you're right, Yatasha, like, what I like about it is like a lot of times we'll look at like, westernized notions of like the superhero, and you see like, Greco-Roman influences or Norse mythology, like Thor, for instance, stuff like that. And it just seemed natural to me that something like the Orishas would actually translate really well into like a pop culture form. That's the first thing. The other thing is that with Black Kirby, we actually do have a Shango character. In fact, we actually use some of the same poses, to actually kind of like um, to represent just the replacement or the or the celebration of Black culture through Kirby's work, that kind of thing. So when you told me about, or when you showed me Tales from the Orishas, here, on Instagram, um, I recognized it because I had seen the posters that Hugo had done first, because they started off as a collection of these kind of like remixes of classic posters, like the Orishas with the Avengers cover, the Thor covers. And so they were doing, so it's funny because like Hugo was doing a similar thing where we were creating like through critical fabulation, to borrow from Saidiya Hartman's work, we were creating like indexes of a shared universe, and I was like really blown away by that, you know. And Hugo had gotten like a lot of accolades just from those initial images too. I mean, we're talking like Afropunk, we're talking, a lot of
Yeah.
different spaces where his work was already being shown. So when you showed me that, I instantly recognized, I was like, wait a minute, I know this work, and it turns out it was the same guy, you know. And what was interesting about it is that it just felt like it made a first of all, it definitely fit the line, it fit the line that we're looking at. I've known Amber for a long time, his which is Hugo's agent, Amber Garza, and we have become friends over last few years or what have you. And so it kind of like worked out, so from like seeing the images on Instagram to actually understand, like actually knowing the agent of the of the artist, it just seemed like it was a dream come true, and a little bit of background about Megascope. So Abrams Comic Arts is an im- is with Abrams Books, Harry and Abrams Books. They are art book publisher, and Abrams Comic Arts is now a graphic novel and I mean comics associated imprint, right? And there's the book.
Mhm.
There it is, right there.
Very
Beautiful.
nice.
And
Beautiful.
my friend Damian Duffy and I had, like you said earlier, had successfully adapted Kindred and Parable of the Sower into graphic novels. And so I actually ended up pitching the idea of doing an imprint of comic books, graphic novels that are dedicated to the subjectivity and agency of people of color. So that's Black, Brown, Asian, what have you, indigenous people, with an extra focus on the speculative, and that means like science fiction, fantasy, horror, magical realism, those types of things. So when I looked at this, I was like, this actually really fits everything that we wanted to do about, everything we wanted to say about comics, and of course, no shade to Western comics and to I grew up reading superhero comics and I grew up reading like heavy metal and stuff from Britain like 2000 AD. So I was really into all these things, but that aesthetic isn't the only aesthetic. And so when I saw this, and also when I heard, the reason why Hugo was doing this was actually kind of a resistant strategy against the unfortunate, in some cases, very violent opposition to Black culture or indigenous Black religion, or from the diaspora, you know, that also was kind of excited me to actually have like this dual purpose of showing this really beautiful work through this fantasy story, this adventure fantasy story, but also it had a very, very serious undertone of being resistant to oppression and to fight for freedom of religion.
Well, I have to say that the images here are amazing, and epic in scale and scope, as is the actual writing too. And I'm just wondering, when you first debuted this in your hometown, what was the response?
Well, the feeling is more intense in Salvador. Recently, I did my first exhibition here. We did already in Angola. We did it in Smithsonian. We had an Afrofuturist exhibition, and our books is there.
Yeah.
But in Salvador is more special because it's my people, it's my culture.
Mhm.
The teachers, the professors, they loved the work because they use it in classes to show students, especially Black and Brown students, how this heritage is important for them. Because as I said, the intolerance and the intolerance and the preconception against the Orishas heritage is huge, even in a city whose almost the population is Black and
Mhm.
brown and people of color, how like you say in US. So in the schools, they use for theaters, for games. They made cards with the art that John mentioned before.
Mm.
So the schools and the teachers, they appropriated the art and now use it a lot to teach about Oshun, to teach about Shango. Children draws a lot inspired by those arts. So it was very important to me because it was not about my vanity or my ego. It's about make something that really matters for a lot of people, make something that echoes from Bahia, from Salvador, from my hometown, to you, to US, to other Angola, to Nigeria. I really wish to go someday to Nigeria because the root of this culture, this universe, Oshobo, Oyo, all those cities, all the story of the kingdoms, the queens. So now, 80 years from the beginning of the journey, I can look back and see the positive legacy that we made, and being respected with this work, not only for people who love comics like we love, but also for the men and women that live this this culture. Leave Candomblé, leave Orishas. For me, one of the most special moments here in Brazil, when a girl came to me and told me, my mom never read a book before. My mom never had interest in read a book before. But when she saw your work and she was sick in a bed, she told me to come here and bring your book to her. She worked as an employer in a place, never had interest in reading, never had opportunity to reading. Then I understood that we must do this because a lot of people need to read and love to read, and sometimes there are no books for them. Representation, diversity. I'm very happy to see now, 2025 in Brazil, it's completely different from when I started. And one of the motivations that I had when I put Orishas as superheroes, it was exactly to oppose our mindset in Brazil. Because for years and years in Brazil, the construction of the Black iconography was by television and movies, the criminal, the driver, like Seed of God.
Yep.
The movie. Okay,
Yeah.
that was the average concept, the average image that media in Brazil produced for years and years in our mindset. So when I make Black kings and queens, Black heroes, Black gods, I'm saying this is the place where we should be. This is the place where our culture and the Black heritage in Brazil should be, like the deep roots of all the beautiful that this country produces. The music, the food, the philosophy, the religion, the epistemology. So all that emanates from Brazilian cultures comes from the Black heritage, from the terreiro, from the carnival, the escolas de samba, samba schools. I don't know if it's the right tradition in English, but all the songs come from this root, and we should respect it. We must respect it and put it in the noble place, in the right place. It's happening. It's not easy because Brazil is like US. The difficulties, the oppositions, but I see strong advances, and I'm happy to contribute somehow with my art to make it stronger.
Well, I guess certainly have to say you brought a lot of excitement out this way, because there's always been, for many people who are excited or understand the Orishas, there's not a lot of visual art, certainly not a lot of graphic novel material for people to look to. And one of the other conversations that I had with Nuestros, Sonidos was with the artist Adavio, who I think you know as well, who did the book A Shoe, the most misunderstood entity in the universe.
With Darwin Lopez.
Yes,
yeah.
Right, exactly. So a lot of crossover theme-wise. But I think you're meeting an interest that people have across a little bit everywhere. There's always a desire to see the Orishas highlighted in sort of a superhero context, certainly a celebrated context, or to see their narratives depicted. And to do so in graphic novels is both accessible and fun, and people of all ages can connect to the stories, certainly the visuals, and engage with some of the symbolism as well. So, John, so in talking about this book, to your colleagues and to readers? What sort of responses are you noting?
Well, it's a broad spectrum. A lot of it is like um just pure shock at how beautiful the book is. As soon as I open up the pages, they're like, "Oh my God," right? So, couple of things I want to mention before I dive into that is like, we have a comic book festival in Harlem that I co-founded at the Schomburg Center for Research in Black Culture, and it's called the Black Comic Book Festival. And as had noted, Hugo, like your work was in the Afrofuturist show. Saw we saw it firsthand. We were in the space
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
pretty amazing, right? So we were showing, we were selling books for Abrams at the Schomburg, and your book was on display on the table, and and it was flying off the table, like so. Our publisher at the time said that if we had had 100 copies of the book on the table, we would have sold every copy, because people know what the Orisha are and respect them and understand the importance to the culture. There was one woman who stopped in her tracks, lovely lady, and she um, was so immobilized by the book, and she started crying, right, because she was Afro-Brazilian. She's from Brazil, and she was totally moved by it, and I gave her the book. I didn't even ask her to pay for it. I just gave it to her. I was like, you can have it. I'm sorry, I just got moved by it because she was just like, this is me, this is my culture, that kind of thing. And people were upset when we sold out of the book. They were like, they're like, where's the Orisha book? And the other thing I want to know too is that, there's only one uh, award that's given out by Black people to Black artists, for our engagement with the comic book medium, and that is the Glyph Awards,
Beautiful.
which is actually given out at the oldest Afrocentric Black comic book convention, which is the East Coast Black Age of Comics Convention. It's at Temple University. And we were going head to head. It's like Silver Surfer was up against. We lost to Tales of the Orishas, but I was still like very, yeah, I was still like very excited
Know it.
because I think you got like best artist, I mean, you were up for like best artist, best writer, story of the year, and I think you won at least two. I forgot how many you won, but I think it
Ah,
was two.
yes. About the price, I knew it. I didn't know the story about the lady, the Brazilian lady,
Yeah.
that was emotional.
Yeah,
Oh,
no, no. I just told you. Yeah, it was
yeah.
extremely moving. Yeah, but yeah, I'm in fact I'm still jacked up about it because just her pure emotion about seeing her culture just sh glowing off the table. People were like they would stop in their tracks to see it because it's beautiful artwork, but they also recognize the culture and they understand. And it's the space where a book like that would do very well. So it's my hope that we can actually continue to support you in this because you're doing amazing work for our ancestors and for future generations. So we're very
Thank
proud
you.
to have you on that piece. But to your question, Yatasha, the book actually speaks to comparative literature professors, people who see it are like, yeah, this is actually the type of work that they want to be, they want in their classrooms. It's very well researched, extremely, it's very well articulated. And I feel like it's probably one of the strongest books on the line so far, Um, I've had conversations about it. You and I mentioned that our colleague Jibamole Anderson also has uses the Orishas or celebrates the Orishas with his book, The Horseman. So it
Mhm.
kind of fits into like into a continuum of people who are celebrating and trying to connect, to these spirits in different ways with comics. Um, I think what I love about it, just from like, talking with different people about it, is that it also really kind of gets at the fact that superheroes are also a kind of pantheon as well. You know what I'm saying? Like they are,
Yeah.
yeah, and so it's through equivalence. So what you're doing is like you're actually like remixing these different folk tales with more like commodified folk tales of superheroes and turning them into like this kind of resistance strategy against the oppression of the stereotypical imagery that you're mentioning because we have the same problems, right? We have the same problems. There's not there's not enough positive images. We have like a lot of narrative scarcity, that actually stops people from seeing us as being heroes. So what does it even mean to be a black god or to be a black hero? It's really pretty amazing. I see so much like richness in the stories. Like for instance, one of my favorite parts is, where you kind of reenact the classic tale of Eshu and his black and red hat. As soon as I saw
Yeah.
it, I was like, this is the real deal right here. That's a classic story of how he teaches about like, these two friends, who see him go through, on a horse originally, like on a pathway, and they see one side sees black, the other one sees red, and it just speaks to the nature of the trickster, and how important Eshu is. But you also see him juxtaposed as being like kind of Heimdall, right? He's also because he's an opener of portals, right?
Yes.
He's the spirit that lives at every doorway and every decision and every aspect of your life when you're making, when you're going into another phase of your life. So when they opened the portal, on the Golden Gate, on the Golden Bridge that you had, I was like, oh, this is like Heimdall, because he's the guardian of the Rainbow Bridge. So I saw all these like winks to Jack Kirby's work and to like other cultures and stuff. I also kind of caught that he represented this idea of he said this notion of like he was foraging at one particular point, and I was like, oh my God, is he forager from like the New Gods as well? So I just saw like you playing around
Makes
with like,
sense.
huh?
It makes sense. The
It makes sense.
forager and yes,
Yeah, it
yes.
does. They even
Never
kind of
thought
like have
about it.
similar. I mean, the colors. He has Forager has like Shango's colors, but he still has like a trickster character. He's kind of a trickster. So anyway, so I was just looking at these different iterations and some of the more political things that you were doing. With the herd, and as I recall, like Ineru, is that his name? The villain, the main villain, is it in
Adiantala,
Not yes, Argentala. And also there's also what is that character called? Enero?
Ibero,
Iberu, yeah, which
Ibero,
means fear, right?
the jackal.
The jackal, yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, but it's a word for fear as well, which I thought was kind of cool. It's just
Yeah,
like all these different like points that you
yeah.
kind of put into the narrative that I think when I show it to people and we talk about it, they're very excited about it. And yeah, I think that it totally fits the line, and I'm very proud and honored to have it on the line. So
No, it's an exciting work. And I just want to remind people that in addition to the Glyph Awards, the book is also was a finalist for the 2020 Djibouti Award in comics and out of Brazil, and also winner of the Angelo Agostini Comic Books Prize. So a lot of celebration. And as we mentioned, featured in the National Museum of African American History and Culture with
mhm.
the Smithsonian, featured in the comic section along with uh, Milestone.
Milestone Media, yeah,
Yeah, it
Oh
was
Milestone,
my
Black
gosh.
Panther, yeah, brother,
Milestone, Black Panther, and Hugo.
yeah, and
Tales of the
also and
Orishas.
also
The
like
day I go,
legend,
the
yeah.
day I arrive in this museum, my heart will explode, you know.
Oh wow.
I'm fan of Milestone Comics.
So you got it.
I'm a
Well, you
huge
got a
fan.
chance to see the show.
Had it in Brazil in the 90s. It was incredible. And I read it online sometimes, the new so they released it a few years ago, I think,
Yeah,
more content. I read it.
that's cool.
Mhm.
Very awesome. And it was also up for the Harvey Award too, right? Or did it win yeah, because it was like, wasn't there, or was it the Ink? I forgot. There was another like a comics award that that it was up for. So, there's there's an overwhelming like sense of understanding like this is a quality work, and also understanding that it's not just like, oh, African gods as superheroes, that this is actually something that is really getting at the connections between the diaspora, but also looking at how you can actually use comics to have extremely serious political discussions, through the work,
And
yeah,
also design discussions too.
yeah,
Hugo, you mentioned that you, are an architect or studied architecture, and you can see that in the way you craft the buildings, some of the scenescapes. I don't know if you could pull it up again, John.
yeah, let me see.
Uh, there are like some really cool images. And so it's just great, because you're uh, And and I'm wondering too, what is it like to take these known figures who are okay, there we go. Look at that. How amazing is that sequence
Yeah,
right there?
very lovely.
This page is one of my favorites
Mine
Hmm.
too. Yeah, I
because,
love the page.
well, we spent 2 years producing the comic book, 2 years, because uh, I had the support of a great friend, Professor Adelson de Brito, who a candomblé priest, a candomblé priest,
Hmm.
and teacher of Yoruba. And during my Yoruba classes, we became friends, and I invited him to join the project with me, to be my consultant, my mentor, because we have the Brazil edition even has a little bit more Yoruba words, Yoruba sentences, Yoruba uh, 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 parts of Yoruba language,
Mm.
because in Brazil, until the 50s, in Salvador, for example, people used to speak in Yoruba in the markets. It was common. And a few years ago, recently, the city hall declared Yoruba part of our culture, like immaterial heritage of our culture.
Mm.
So I put it because people in Brazil don't understand that the average mindset that, oh, uh, African dialects, they say something like African. They don't say African has a lot of languages, thousands of languages, and Yoruba is a language spoken by 30 million people. So
Hmm.
back to the architecture. Uh, uh, can you show again?
Oh yeah, yeah. Sorry,
Okay. Sorry.
sorry.
Uh, right here. The city of Oyo, she's a city inspired by Jack Kirby, Asgard, Wakanda,
Hmm.
Olympia from the Eternals, New Genesis. But at the same time, there is a great influence of a Brazilian artist, one of our most talented and biggest Brazilian artists, Rubem Valentim. Rubem Valentim, it's a painter. He's a painter who symbolized the Orishas iconography.
Mm.
So all these monuments, axes, and the color uh, are inspired by Rubem Valentim work.
It's beautiful.
Also, the symbols of the city are symbols of Shango. The
Hmm.
stone, when you see this huge stone, the rocket stone, the hill, it's a symbol of Shango. You see
Yep.
the lion and the fire are symbols of Shango. The turtle and the lamb in the gates are symbols of Shango.
Mm.
So different readers will see the layers of symbols in each page. For a non-related person with candomblé or Orishas culture, this person you read, you see, you enjoy, and you see the Jack Kirby heritage, the Jack Kirby style, or an art student who knows Ruben Valentin, will you see
Hmm.
the reference to Ruben Valentin palette of colors, the iconography. And if it's someone who is a candomblé scholar that studies candomblé, or if someone that's follow the philosophy of candomblé, will recognize the symbols of Shango, the symbols of the Orishas. So all those layers where I thought about every detail, because the time I spent, it gave me the opportunity to think about all those little details in the artwork. For example, in the frames below, you see a huge African market. You see Mancala. It's a game, a very common game in African countries. They call Mancala, or I think it's Ayo, the game's name. I'm not sure.
Mm.
And in the last frame, you see the woman who managed the market, because in traditional Yoruba culture, the business, it belongs to women. The politics for men and the business for women. So she's the yellow, the owner of the market. She's exchanging, and so all these things I didn't exactly say in the text about all those details, but they are there.
Yeah.
And you can study it, you can go back and you find more things.
No, I think it's incredibly exciting because the imagery is so rich and so layered. And it's the kind of book that you can read it once. Maybe you think you could fly through it, but you really need to take your time with it. And if you finish it once, it's a good idea to go back again. Now, question for you: how were you able to balance both uh, when you're working with these deities and these spiritual energies, um, there's the stories that we all know, and then also you have these new stories that you're intertwining, you're intermixing into this. How did you find the balance?
That's an excellent question, Ytasha. Part of my research was to understand the difference between the African narratives, the African myths from Yoruba land, from Nupe land, and the Afro-Brazilian heritage and the Afro-Cuban heritage. They're not completely different, but very different. For example, in Brazil, in the oral traditions of terreiros, Xangô is the brother of Ogum. Ogum is the brother of Oxóssi, and all of them are siblings of Exu. In Africa, it's completely different. There is no relation of brotherhood.
Oh, interesting.
So I had to make some choices. I had to make the choices I needed to make my narrative work, and it makes things more interesting because any other person who wants to write about Orishas, this person will find the all way, the all line. So in one line, Yemoja is the mother of Shango. In another line, Torosi, the queen of Nupeland, is the mother of Shango. We, the artists, can choose which narrative will fit. I don't know if it's the right word, but it will fit in the story we want to tell. But the way I work is choose some narratives, some myths, and in the transposition of the oral tradition, poetry of the myths to the popular comic book language, I create the details. For example, the plot of Tales of the Orishas is Shango must go to war to defend the kingdom of Oshun. In the story, in the Ita, how they say in Yoruba, Shango go to the battle. Shango fights against a dishonored villain, and his soldiers are hurt. This villain hurt Shango's soldiers. Shango evokes Ifa, Orumila, to give him strength and an answer to win this, to get victory over this villain. But different from the villain, Shango doesn't make revenge or impose violence over the soldiers of the villain, of the enemy. He forgives them and makes justice. Then the soldiers go home singing about how just is Shango, how Shango is a fair king, so when I adapted the story to the comic book, I had to think the details. Shango goes to war, but where is he going? Okay, to the kingdom of Oshun. Why? Because he has to defend the peace of Oshun, the treasure of Oshun, the Ashe, the force of life, of love, of health. But he can't go alone. He is going to this adventure with Oya, his wife,
Hmm.
one of his three wives. At the point of the story, he is married with Oya and Oba. Oba stays in Oyo for the throne, but Shango only walks and travel with Eshu. So Eshu has to go within I created in these details. We can't do anything without Eshu, so Eshu has to be
Right.
there.
You have to
In
go.
the
Yeah,
way, in
exactly.
the forest, in the middle of the plot,
Yeah,
Ogun
that's
is
totally
there.
true. No, my apologies, but I have to stop.
Mhm.
Yes, well,
Uh,
thank you so much, John, for joining us.
yes,
I appreciate you making the time. You are amazing. Hugo
thank you.
and I are going to continue on.
Please do,
Um,
please do. I can't wait to see the rest of it, and I'm looking forward to checking out the sequel, to this.
I
Uh,
know.
yeah, just see and
No,
enjoy each other's company, and I'm gonna go and but I'm it's very honored. Thank you, Carnegie Hall. Thank you, Hugo. Thank you, Ytasha, for having me here. And I'm so proud to have this book on my line, and I'm hoping to work with you again in the future. So thank you so much for all the work you've been doing for our people. So thank you.
Thanks,
I thank
John.
you, John.
All
I
right.
thank you a lot. Hope you can make more uh, art and stories together.
Yes.
It's today is a very special moment in my work, in my artwork, and be with you and Yatasha.
Thank you.
Uh, Thank you again, and hope you can do again
That would be great.
soon.
Yep.
Another meeting.
I love it. I love it. Y'all have a good evening. Thank you.
You
Thanks.
too. Have a good evening.
So, Hugo told me earlier that he has not only begun working on the sequel to Tales of the Orishas, I think you have you finished it? Are you finished with
Yeah,
this? Oh, wow. So we are going to get a first sneak peek of some of the images.
I show you now. Where can I find it? Okay.
And how long have you been working on this one?
The sequence name is The King of Fire. It's a story, well, it's a new story that happened years before Tales of the Orishas. It's
Mm,
a story of origin about Shango. We will see uh, how Shango became the king of fire, how Shango became the king of Oyo, how he conquered the throne, uh, and became the Orisha of thunder and fire and justice, and became the king of Oyo. It's four uh, editions, four issues, four volumes series. And this is the first one. Each story shows one period of his life, one moment of his life from the beginning when he's 12 years old with his family in Oyo. He's the prince of the kingdom until he get the throne.
wow. How exciting is that? First time getting a little sneak peek of this series. And the first of four individual comics. And we're pretty sure I'm putting this into the universe. I'm going to say all four of these will be put into a graphic novel that you will be able to acquire as well. This is great, great, telling the origin story. And I know for so how long were you working on this one?
The King of Fire took 2 years of work.
Mm,
It takes time because I do everything by myself.
mm,
From the research, the script, the art, uh, part of colors and the ink, but especially because every detail uh, is created, and I have to be respectful with the iconography.
mm-hmm.
For example, each Orisha has a color. Shango wear red, Oxalá or Batala wear white, Iemoja dress blue. So every Orisha, each one of the Orishas has their own tools or weapons, the axe, the sword, the mirror, and there are a lot of details.
And you can't just draw anything. I mean, the axe has to look like the actual Shango axe. So it's funny because there's this space where you have to almost draw things to match certain symbols exactly. And then there's other things where you might have a lot of leeway.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. It's I like to make my own design, but at the same time, I have to respect the standards because there is a traditional iconography in Brazil of the Orishas, including it's very different from African representations. Shango in Candomblé, the colors are the same, but the details, the crown, there are subtle differences in the way we represent in Brazil, and in Cuba represents in different ways, and sometimes the color changes. So I had to make a deep research about the details, the crowns, the dresses, the tools.
And I think this is so exciting because people get to see the imagery and they can learn these symbols and the details, and they can say, oh, okay, this is Brazilian, and then when you look at another piece they could see something else. There was an image on there I wanted to ask you a question about, and that was the one with Yemaya or Umoja, where you had the women in the water in the ocean. I wanted to see that image. I was wondering if you could talk to us a bit about that image.
This one?
Yes,
or
this one.
Okay.
I just have to tell you, I like writing about water mythologies and water spirits. I went to Dakar and Senegal and got to learn some things that I've incorporated in stories. So Yemaya or Umoja, certainly Oshun, are all fall in that pantheon. And this image is just, very cool. And I was just wondering if you could tell us more about it.
Sure. By the way, your book, Afrofuturism, the one of 2013, the cover is beautiful. I love that art. I love that was the first time I saw John's art. I hope I can have it some time to read it. Do you have plans to publish in Brazil?
Oh, it is published in Brazil.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
it's in Portuguese, and I can tell you the name of the exact publisher. But
You
yeah,
get
it's
it.
out. It
Good.
just came out a few months ago.
Great.
So
I'm gonna get it.
yes, it says in the title Afrofuturismo.
Futurismo.
And same cover. They used the same cover. They didn't change the cover, so they used John's image. So yeah, it's available.
That's great. I think we have so much to change, the Black American authors, the Black Brazilian authors, the Orishas worshippers from Brazil, the Orishas cultures worshippers in US. The language for us Brazilians sometimes can be a wall, because just a few, unfortunately in Brazil, just a few people has the opportunity to learn English and have to
Right.
live. But I think I'm optimistic about it, In Salvador, for example, a few years ago, Beyoncé went here in a presentation. Beyoncé in the, I don't know, the festival, and Afropunk, every year it started to be here in Salvador. So I think the bond's becoming stronger. I'm optimistic.
Yeah, and certainly more translations helps. But I think it's interesting is when people talk about Afrofuturism, one of the biggest Afrofuturist scenes is in Brazil. You
Yeah,
have so many
Ale Santo.
songs, yeah, so many artists, so many writers who are doing work, and and I think a lot of the excitement has to do with the fact that the Orishas are so entrenched. I think between the Orishas and the history of the Maroons,
Yes.
Brazil has the perfect pantheon as a reference point for telling Afrofuturist stories and exploring in that way. And I've had opportunities to speak virtually at some conferences. So I will be there at some point.
For sure.
To
Uh, uh, if there's something that I can do to bring you to Brazil, tell me.
Yes, I will. I
Really.
will do
Yeah.
so.
To
I will.
Bahia first. Salvador first.
I will do so. Yes, no, this is exciting. Let's see. We can click out of this image if you
Okay.
like, unless there's another one you want to show us and tell us about.
This image, it shows the creation of the sea and the sea life. The first page of King of Fire are about the creation of the world, of mankind, of the deities. But
Mm-hmm.
this special page, it shows the different aspects of Iemoja. In
Mm-hmm.
Candomblé, in our traditions, there are different aspects of an Orisha. We call in Brazil qualidades. In Cuba, they call caminos. A different manifestations of the goddess. So, Olokun is the great goddess of the ocean in the right corner, and her children, different emojis. The young one, the elder who dress white, the warrior Ogunte who dress green. So it's a way that I found to represent different faces of the goddess of the waters.
That's
As you
amazing.
said,
And I have to say, and maybe this is the first time I've seen Olokun in a feminine form.
yeah, there are some traditions who shows Olokun has a male entity. In others, it's a woman. It's
That
female.
that is very exciting. And I think one of the reasons a lot of people gravitate towards this pantheon too is because there is this sort of balance of masculine and feminine energies where the entities or the orishas are. Yes, I mean, if you're a woman or regardless of your background, how you identify with gender, you can
Mhm.
see an aspect of self.
It's true.
And so you have the balance of masculine and feminine. You have deities who are expressed as both. And I think that all of this is, something that's very exciting for people. Um,
Yes, yes. The energies that we call orishas, they manifest in human nature. They manifest in the water, in the air. It's a integrated vision of life, I think. And all the different aspects of gender are included on it.
mm,
That's the beauty of our culture. It aggregates everybody, different from other philosophies or beliefs that splits, separates. I think the Orishas spirituality and philosophy aggregates. the terreiro is a place where different people are together, different colors, different visions, different origins, and they are sharing the same space. They are sharing the same space because they are there to reconnect with the ancestry, to get ashe, to get strength.
Well, this is exciting. If you like, Hugo, you can exit your screen here.
Okay.
Yes, and I want to let everyone know that, or let Hugo know that the Brazilian translation of my book, Afrofuturism, The World of Black Sci-Fi and Fantasy Culture, was put out by Editora Ananse.
Nancy, excellent
Yeah,
publisher.
yeah.
Yeah.
So they put the book out, and I was quite honored to be a part of the virtual talk we all did celebrating the release of the book, and I clearly have to come there. Hugo's gonna Hugo's gonna be waving, letting me know what's going on as I come through. But I just have to say that your work is beautiful, it's thoughtful, it's well crafted, it honors the legacy of the Orishas, but it also places them in a future with your depictions, the level of integrity that you had with it. And it's no surprise that it's won the awards that it has, that it's captured so much attention here in the US and elsewhere. People are connecting with your work because you are responding to both a need and an interest. And uh, yeah, and cheers to you, you know, for being able to create such a wonderful, wonderful graphic novel. Now we know there's a new series coming out. And do you have any dates for when this new issue will be ready?
Ah, first of all, I thank you for your words. Are very important for me. Your movies, your books, your path is an inspiration. And
Thank
I'm
you.
serious when I say that you must come to Brazil.
I want
Uh,
to. I've been preparing my whole life to go to Brazil. I can samba
yeah, in
dance,
Bahia.
right? To Bahia, yes. I samba.
You,
I know the music. You know, I'm ready.
sure, sure, you will love it. It will be an inspiration for you.
I think
And
so.
I think that my looking backward now from the beginning, my path, my crossroads brought me to make this connection between our cultures, bring this universe from Bahia, Brazil to US, and bring back to Brazil and fortify and make stronger this bond
Hmm.
for all of us who believes in art has a way to change things, to make the world better, to increase people's minds, to open our perceptions for in a more tolerant and respectful way. Uh, I'm very, very honored to be here, really, you and John. And about the King of Fire, I hope that after today, John bring good news about release the
Hmm.
book in US. It's already it's done. We translated to English. We made different how do I say? We write it and write again to make the English version better.
Hmm.
In Brazil, in the next month, probably April or May, we are going to release another book, The Song of Mairubi. It's a book. It's an universe, a fantasy universe inspired by Incas, Aztecs. It's some sort of Game of Thrones and Lord of the Rings, but inside the colonial Latin American lore.
Oh, that's
It's a
exciting.
yeah, it's the project. It's a project that I have been working from the last 10 years, building
Mhm.
this board, building this lore, and I released the first book in April or May. I'm gonna show you, and you keep in touch,
Yes.
and for sure, for sure. And in maybe May or June, we are going to release the crowdfund campaign in Brazil for Tales of the Orishas 3, the volume 3. It's a story that continues the epic, and there will be focus in Oya Yansan, in the
Whoa.
Orisha of
So
lightning.
is your goal to do possibly one on each of the main Orishas? Maybe.
Yes, yes. Each
Whoa. Whoa, Hugo's going deep, 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 deep. This is so great, for the Tales of the Orishas. We've got one has been out and celebrated, two is on deck, three is in the works. Then we have a whole Inca story. What's that story called? The Inca inspired
the
story.
this in Portuguese is a canção de Mairubi. In English, it might be. I'm gonna show you just
Okay.
a preview.
Ooh,
Okay,
we get another preview. Another
yeah,
preview. This is great.
that's the first time I show it. Oh
Oh my
my God.
goodness. This is a first. Okay, all kinds of firsts today. It's the first time Hugo and John connected
Yes.
visually, well, along with myself. The first time we're seeing previews for Tales of the Orishas 2. And then now we're looking at the Incas story. Whoa.
Nairobi. It's it's a world that looks like Latin American, the mountains, the landscape, the forest,
Right.
and it's an adventure. It's for about three friends, that goes in an adventure to find themselves, and it's a new.
Whoa, this is great. Now, you could put this in the category of indigenous futurism. That's a
Oh,
term that we've been using here in the US to talk about native
understood.
cultures and future tales. Um, that's a possibility.
Yeah, in Brazil, my indigenous folks that work with comics, they talk about Amazofuturismo,
Oh, Amazmo
Amazon
futurismo.
futurismo.
Okay,
Yeah,
around the Amazon. Very cool.
yeah. I'm going to Amazon Forest on Friday to a comic book festival.
Whoa.
Yes, yes.
This is great. Okay, I'm gonna have to hang with you, Hugo. You've got all the you're going to an Amazon comic book fest. All the places. This is and working with great people around putting together the Tales of the Orishas and the follow-ups. It looks like we have an exciting series of reads to put on deck. And Hugo, I just want to thank you as we, wrap up our discussion. Um, I want to say that your work has touched so many. It continues to touch many. I know there are people who are listening today. It may be their introduction to your work. The Tales of the Orishas you can get anywhere. The first version you can get in Portuguese or in English under Megascope Abrams, and the other books will be out soon. But you can check. You can go to your website. What is your website?
Okay, my website is hugocanuto.com.
Hmm. Hmm.
And my Instagram is Hugo Canuto underline. Uh, how do I say? You say
Underscore. Hmm.
underscore art underscore Hugo Canuto underscore art.
Okay,
My
Hugo Canuto underscore art. Got it.
yeah.
Is there any final words that you have, Hugo?
Well, uh, I want to thank you and John again. Uh, I hope our audience understand my English.
Oh, you've been
Uh,
amazing. You've been fantastic.
Thank
Let's
you.
just be glad we didn't have to do this in Portuguese. Then, no, your English is just amazing.
And it's very important to be with you today here. It's very important to spread the message of our art and our book to this audience. I want to say thank you to Carnegie Hall and Nuestros Sonidos Festival. I want to say thank you for the Afrofuturist Evolution Festival. And I hope we can, beautiful book.
Yes.
I want I want this book too.
Go, John.
I'll
Go,
never, never
John.
forget
Yes,
this
I
book,
know. We have to
no?
get this book to you. Okay. I can get the English version.
I can read in English. That's okay. I can read it.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Great. Well, this has been wonderful, a true joy. I'm glad that everyone had a chance to celebrate with us. Thank you, Carnegie Hall, the Nuestros Sonidos, and the celebration of Latin American culture continues. This has been a grand journey. Please check out Tales of the Orisha. Actually, I don't have to say please. You will be checking out Tales of the Orisha by Hugo Canuto, put out by Abrams Megascope. And you can also check out the Afrofuturist Evolution, which is just debuted this spring, written by yours truly. This has been amazing. Hugo, we will continue to be in conversation. Cultural, cross-cultural conversations are always the thing to do. And I want to say thank you. Thank you, everyone. Goodbye.
Thank you, everyone. Hope we can meet it again soon.
Yes, indeed.